Hey guys, welcome to the Week 2 Lifestyle and Behavior Lecture. One of the things I want to do in this lecture is kind of recap some of the things that you've been doing in the program, kind of get you kind of still understanding a little bit about how to manipulate nutrition, so the lifestyle modifications and behaviors that you want to begin to develop around nutrition. So you can see behind me, I have a plate that I sketched out for you. And this is the plate that most of you will be following. You'll notice some interesting things. The V and the F on that plate stands for the vegetables and less sweet fruits. The P stands for protein, and the big S stands for starch. Now you notice on that little sliver where the starch is, you'll see that there's several different variances there. So you can see where you can have either 15 bites, which would take up that entire quarter of the plate, or 10 bites, which takes up a little less, and 5 bites, which takes up even less. Now here's the thing to understand. Many of you want and desire meal plans. You want to be told exactly what to eat. Many of you, really want, give me the exact food list. Many of you want specific recipes. And the problem with that is that if we do that, if we give you specific lists, if we give you specific meal plans, and we give you specific recipes, those things are going to work for some people. For other people, they are not going to work. And there's going to be all kinds of people in between. This is the difference between dieting and making a lifestyle change. So it's uncomfortable, yes, especially for those of you who are used to dieting. You're probably even getting frustrated saying, hey, tell me what to eat. Where's the what I eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks? I need that written out for me. That really is playing the weight loss game, and that is getting you into the weight loss trap, because if we do that for you, you are never going to learn how to do this for yourself. So this plate really is what we like to call structured flexibility. We give you the structure, and then we teach you how to manipulate it for you. So almost all of you should be sitting right around 10 bites for your starch. Those of you who have gone through menopause or who are PCOS and overweight should be down about 5 bites per meal. And those of you who are, the only people that should really be up around the 15 bites are those of you who are very thin, who are endurance exercisers, and or PCOS lean types. These are people who are very lean but also suffer from PCOS. And there's going to be more about PCOS coming. But most of you should be right around 10 bites. And what you do from there is you don't stay there. See, the dieting mindset makes you think, oh, I just stay there and I do that. But the idea is you have to go back to that first lifestyle and behavior lecture in week 1, which is probably the most important lecture you're going to get in this whole entire program. And remember, hunger, energy, and cravings combined with your fat loss results are what are going to determine how you change things. So that sliding window of carbs is what you really want to focus on. Are you right at 10 bites, or to get results, do you need to go to 5 bites? Here's the final thing I will say about that. A lot of you are, comfortable and convenient with where you are right now. And some of you have decided, whether consciously or unconsciously, that that is as far as you are going to go. And what I want to say is your metabolism does not care how comfortable or convenient things are. It is going to get results where it gets results. So that is the problem that a lot of people have, because they say, hey, I'm eating great, I'm doing all these things, but I'm not seeing results. Well, here's the thing. If you are not seeing results, then you are not eating great for your metabolism. And that is just, it's a cruel kind of thing that our metabolism does, but our metabolism does not care how convenient or comfortable your diet is for you. And so each of us have to make that decision about how far we're willing to go. If you are not seeing results, and your hunger and energy and cravings are stable, you need to be decreasing carbohydrates primarily. So some of you may ask, why not fats? Why don't we focus on fats? We may focus on fats in the future, but here's the thing. Fats turn carbohydrates against you, and carbohydrates turn fat against you. So the idea is that we can do more if we focus on carbohydrates than if we just focus on fat, because fat alone really is relatively neutral. It does have calories, but it is hormonally neutral. It's when you add starch on top of the fat, or sugar on top of the fat, that things spiral out of control. So this is the first thing I want to show you. Ask yourself now when watching this lecture, where are you in this situation? This sliding carbohydrate window is really the beginning of understanding the carbohydrate tipping point and understanding how lean people stop dieting and start acting like detectives. So as a woman who has struggled with dieting, and women tend to do this more than men like me, who I've not, really dieted a whole lot in my life. I do struggle with nutrition, but I don't diet a lot. But women tend to be more serial dieters than men. If you are one of those people, you have to kind of look at yourself and start to look at yourself and say, look, I want to figure this out. And this is how you begin to do it. So if you've not started seeing results and hunger and energy and cravings are balanced, go back to that week 1 lecture on lifestyle and behavior, then you want to start decreasing your carbohydrates down a little bit. If you're postmenopausal, I suggest you start at 5 bites. If you are PCOS and heavy, I suggest you start at 5 bites. Some of you may be not eating enough carbs, and some of you may need to go up a little bit. So that's what I want to focus on this week here, and there's more in this lecture, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about menses and carbohydrate intake. So this may seem weird. You might say, Jade, what does menses have to do with my carbohydrate intake? Well, if you go back to the first educational video on the female hormones, you now know that estrogen makes you a little bit more insulin sensitive. So you're a little bit more able to tolerate carbohydrates during the first 2 weeks of the menstrual cycle, which is called the follicular phase. And during the luteal phase, when you are more progesterone dominant, remember progesterone makes you the opposite of what estrogen is. It helps you deal with stress a little better, so does estrogen. But when you are progesterone dominant, you are going to be a little more insulin resistant and less able to tolerate carbohydrates. So here's the thing. As we look at a normally menstruating female, and not everyone is normally menstruating, so we'll kind of get to that in a minute, you can begin to adjust your carbohydrate intake depending on where you are in your cycle. So let's just review the cycle really quickly. So we all know that we should know now, or you should know now, that most women in a perfect cycle, and we know that that perfect cycle is somewhat of a myth, but in a perfect cycle, you have a 14-day ovulation where you're ovulating at 14 days. And this is the point where you go from estrogen dominant to more progesterone dominant. And so what you can begin to do is make sure that you're increasing your carbohydrate intake a little bit if you want, up to maybe about 10 bites during the estrogen dominant follicular phase, the first 2 weeks of the cycle, versus the last 2 weeks of the cycle, which is progesterone dominant. That's when you're going to want to decrease the amount of bites, maybe to 5 bites of carbohydrate. Now, those of you who are perimenopausal, menopausal women, you're probably going to want to stay with 5 bites because you're not going through this normal cycle. And same with those of you who are PCOS heavy type versus the PCOS type of people who are lean. But that is something you can begin to do lifestyle-wise that may begin to provide some good quality results for you. The other thing to understand is in the progesterone phase or in the luteal phase and right before menses, both these hormones, both estrogen and progesterone, drop off sharply. And that, because the brain has estrogen and progesterone receptors, this can impact serotonin and dopamine and lead to cravings and things like that. So cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon mixed in water, cocoa will elevate both serotonin and dopamine, will help save you close to menses from getting these cravings and these hungers. So hopefully that's helpful for you, and I would begin to adjust, and this is going to work for different women in different ways, but begin to adjust in this way and see if that does not make a difference in your fat loss goals.